everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Risk Matrix.
The Risk Matrix, baby, roll tide. Welcome, Chris. You in the Matrix, son?
Yeah,
you're in the Matrix, baby, and you're here again with James Junkin, the guy on I don't know if it's the left or right of me, but anyways, he likes Alabama, and we have a guest today, Chris Gafford from Callan. And Chris, just hold on one second. And James is going to lead us in with a little note about a class that's coming up. And then we're going to get to talking about some contractor safety.
Well, I'm really excited about this, Dr. Martin and Chris, one for having Chris on, but also to announce what I consider to be a great opportunity in a partnership between the National Association of Safety Professionals and Veriforce. They've come together to bring what I consider to be the ultimate safety manager course. It's going to be a class that's hosted in October. I think it's October 16th by Veriforce and the National Association of Safety Professionals in the Woodlands at Veriforce's headquarters. So what is the class? Certified Safety Manager. It's an immersive, interactive 40-hour journey that covers everything in occupational safety and health. So this course isn't just about lectures or slides. It's hands-on, it's interactive, it's tailored to meet the needs of working safety professionals. So whether you're a novice or you're a veteran, you can find value in this course. So don't delay. Head on over to NASP, N-A-S-P, web, W-E-B, naspweb.com /classroom. Look for the October 16th CSM, the Woodlands course. Veriforce clients receive a $300 discount. Enter Veriforce code, enter the code Veriforce CSM 23 to claim your discount. I hope you'll attend.
If it's free, it's for me. If there's a coupon, I'm in. So it's a good course. So James, I'm going to let you introduce Chris, and then we're going to get to talking. And Chris, I'm pleased to meet you. And I hear from James that you're just as opinionated as we are, and so this is going to be a good conversation. So everybody, hold on to your seats.
Well, welcome, Chris. Chris Gafford is safety manager with Callan Petroleum. Out primarily in the Texas area, but in the Permian, the Eagle Ford area, in the upstream oil and gas industry. Known him for a long time. He's a great safety professional. He's a passionate safety professional, and he believes in the mission, which is we want to get workers home safe from high hazard jobs. And unfortunately, like you, Dr. Martin, like myself, Chris has seen times where that's not happened. That's not happened. So today, I'd like to start off by asking Chris about some of the challenges coming out of COVID that hiring clients are having, that they're having with their contractors. You know, is safety harder to manage both in your organization and at the contractor level post-COVID?
Well, I don't know about we came through COVID pretty well. You know, we're in West Texas, and so we're in Midland. My office is in Midland. Most of our operations, like you said, are here in the Permian Basin. So as far as opinionated goes, you mentioned being opinionated. You know, we all kind of had the same opinions around here in West Texas about things, and so we came through COVID pretty well. We weren't really shut down a lot. I mean, you know, it's great being an essential worker. I used to tell my wife that, you know, driving down the interstate over here is really awesome without all you non-essentials out there, you know. So we came out of it pretty well. So it hadn't been tough for us, but for our contractors, you know, obviously we had a slowdown during the COVID deal. And matter of fact, so Carrizo and Callan, two different companies, same size, merged. Get a load of this, December of 2019. Perfect timing for COVID to hit and oil to go negative and so on. And so we had to be real strategic with how we played that. You know, companies that had been around for years and years didn't survive it. And here we have a merger trying to survive. So imagine the challenges with taking these two companies, putting them together. Which vendors do we keep? Which ones do we not use? When there's just such a little small piece of the pie to share at this point. So what we started finding out was that a lot of people, and actually 2020 was a rough year because companies were letting go their workforce, right? But you'd have, and we saw this especially in completions. We had several recordables right in a row. We got to looking into it. These completions companies, whether it was coil tubing or frac or whatever, were letting go of some of the guys in the field, and they were taking supervisors. This guy used to run this coil tubing unit, but now he's been in the office for 5 years. But you know what? He's got experience. Put him back on that unit. He doesn't have experience now. He may think he does, but he doesn't. He's been out of it for 5 years, and boom, somebody gets hurt. And then later on the frac, hey, this guy, he used to be the best line boss we had. He's been here in the office for 3 years, doing fleet manager stuff or whatever. Put him back out in that data van, and things went south. And so that's one of the things we struggled with, was not necessarily new workers, but experienced workers who had been out of the role and then gone back to it. So during COVID, that was a real struggle. Since then, of course, things ramped back up. Right now, oil's, a little over $80 a barrel for West Texas Intermediate, and so things are ramping up a little bit. Now we have a lot of these people, a lot of new employees coming in, new contractors, young guys that have never had a job. They didn't work during COVID. They sat at home playing video games and eating, Cheetos and whatever else. And now we throw them out on a rig. And literally, I was on a drilling rig the other day. We got several running right now, and I was on a drilling rig, and we hear, some gravel starting to bleed a little bit, and we look up, and there's this guy taking off in his truck. Been there 2 days, and it was hot. And he don't work here no more. He didn't say nothing to nobody. He just got in the truck and left.
It's called dragging up, right?
Yeah,
dragging up.
Yeah. He rolled up real
Chris,
quick. And
he gave you what we call over at Mariner Gulf a 2-day notice. I'm leaving today.
Exactly. It's exactly like that. And that happens pretty regular. Every morning at their pre-job safety meeting, who are we going to be missing today? It's hot. It's real hot, or it's cold, or it's hard work, or it's dangerous, or I miss my girlfriend, or whatever it is, so we've had a hard time. Our contractors have had a hard time keeping people. And then whenever they go to replace them, the best option we have is, well, this guy worked at McDonald's for 6 months, and that one was a greeter at Walmart for 7. So, Walmart wins out, or whatever. They have no experience in the industry, and so we're just in this cycle. So it has been tough on the contractor side. Fortunately, like I said, we were lucky to keep nearly everybody through COVID. So we still have, we're the high school team coming in with a bunch of seniors, right? We still have all the experience there on the team. So our operations managers, whether it's drilling or workover or whatever, have done a really good job of trying to manage that situation. Because if our contractors were coming in with new employees like they are, and we had new supervision out there, you can imagine that's going to be a mess. So we've been lucky. Matter of fact, lucky enough that in 2022, last year, we set a company record for the lowest TRIR in the history of the company. We've been around since 1950. Of course, OSHA starting in the 70s and whatnot. But yeah, we set a record last year because we've done a really, really good job of handling that transition.
Man, I think that's great. And I'm gonna let Dr. Martin ask a question here in a minute, but I want to point something out what you just said. You took your experienced leadership at the hiring client, at the operator, and you got them in the field with the contractors, helping them manage the process. And that has equaled you not experiencing the same number of serious injuries and fatalities that others are seeing in the oil and gas industry, following a more traditional model, which is we hire a contractor to do it. We're paying the bills over here, but we're not directing the work. We're not, hey, hope it works out for you, So
yeah, and we do have a specific model. I'm glad you brought that up, because some companies, bigger, major, E&P companies, have an army worth of safety professionals out there. They got a safety guy on every rig, on every frac. They're everywhere. Every project has a safety guy, contract or employee, whatever. We don't have that. We're a much smaller operator, still publicly traded, but an independent. And so we don't have that luxury, of having an army of safety guys. And so what we do is we fully expect our PICs, person in charge, or company man, whatever you want to call them. We fully expect them to carry the water on location as far as being the company, or as far as being the safety guy, and we hold them to that, and we hold them accountable. And when things go wrong there on location, visiting with that company man, consultant, whatever you want to call them, visiting with that guy and finding out his role in that is really important. Hey man, is this something that you should have seen? I mean, and of course, in accident investigations, it's never really about pointing fingers, but also if we have somebody not doing their part, keeping guys safe is every bit as much part of their job as knowing what's going on downhole and so on. And if they're not doing their part, we'll find somebody who will, because we fully expect them to hold the contractor's feet to the fire as far as the safety management system goes.
So James knows I have a question, because he can see my eyes light up and kind of get excited here. I'm actually going to shift back to your comment about your TRIR and how you've seen the decrease and that you've had really good success in that realm, which most often equates to lower serious injuries and fatalities, but not always, right? So my question is kind of two-part. One is for a company like yourself, especially in a merger, right? Because priorities have to shift and take place. Do you have a set of other metrics that you're looking at, leading indicators, to help you kind of push that TRIR lower, but also to do continuous improvement on your processes? That's the first part. Okay. The second part is, how much are you partnering with, and you've kind of answered this with the company man, but with some subcontractors that you have, like do you coach them on things that you need, and what are those priorities for you?
So as far as, I guess anybody that would be watching a podcast like this probably already understands that TRIR is not our best measure, right? You got a smaller company, less man hours to suck it up. One injury can throw you off. Halliburton, thousands and thousands of employees, one injury doesn't even change the TRIR. So it's not a good measure. It also doesn't tell us at all how serious these injuries are. I can have a TRIR of say 0.39. That's what we ended up at last year. Okay. I can have a TRIR of 0.39, but is that, and say it's, let's just say it's 10 recordables. Is that 10 fatalities? Is that 10 guys that got stitches? The TRIR ends up the same, right? And so it's not a good measure. So another thing that, so we started looking at some other things to also measure our performance. One of them you mentioned is SIFs, significant incident fatalities. We have set goals by the board around that. And we've been very, very fortunate, out of the recordables we had last year, none of them were serious. None of them were life altering. Matter of fact, none of them were even days away or restricted duty. They were all very, very minor. But we do need a way to measure, how severe these injuries are whenever we do have them. And so looking at SIFs is important, whether it's an actual significant injury, fatality, or a potential, just a near miss. Hey, we got lucky. That's never a place you want to be. So we've been looking at that a lot. And, we're a member of AXPC and the onshore oil and gas, whatever it's called. And so those two entities have been talking about a specific definition around SIF, because they also understand TRIR just isn't good. So we're looking at a definition around SIF so that we can start, because, the problem with the SIF is then you get into the what if game, right?
Right.
Well,
Mhm.
if this guy was within a foot of that energy release, is it a SIF? Does he have to be within 10 foot? He's
That's
20 foot
exact.
over there.
I'm so glad you brought that up. And Chris, you and I are going to be on a panel. I don't know if you know this or not. You and I are going to be on a panel discussion at the OSHA Oil and Gas Conference talking about this, coming up with a common definition of serious. Everybody understands what, or significant. Everybody understands what fatality is. We get that. But defining what is significant, what is serious, and when we say life altering, okay, well, what does that mean? That means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. If I fall and I tear my rotator cuff and I get surgery, and now I can go out and throw a 77-yard touchdown pass like Tom Brady can or did, was it life altering?
Ain't nobody at Alabama going to throw a 77-yard touchdown pass. So I'm glad you picked Tom Brady.
Not this year. Not this year. Not this year. But that's all right. Yours is coming.
I threw him off. No, you're exactly right. And another thing is one thing we don't want to miss sight of is the potential SIF, right? And where do you stop the what if game, right? Like, okay, this was a near miss. Somebody could have died. But he was 10 foot over there, he wasn't right here next to it, but there was only this much energy expelled. If it was that much, it would have been serious. And so that's where it gets really tricky, is determining these potential SIFs. Because when you talk about leading indicators, that's what we need to look at is these near misses, small and big, but especially the big ones. We actually have one going on right now that we're investigating. And like with just about everything, this near miss, we're classifying as a SIF, and it's a whole bunch of failures all put together, right? Now, we can have a recordable accident, and we did have one where a guy choked up too far on a hammer handle and went to trying to swing it in a tight space, hit his finger, got stitches, right? It's a small incident. It's recordable, yes. It's a small incident. One guy making a mistake on how he was handling tools. But when you get to these big accidents, it really hurt people, or get into the SIF potential. That's when you start saying, like, wait, there's a bunch of failures here. We created this perfect storm. And at any point, if somebody had just taken that piece of the puzzle out, we would have been fine. Why didn't somebody catch this? That to us.
How do you plan for the perfect storm?
That's tough. And
it is tough. It is.
That's one of the reasons we have to have those company men, those PICs being so engaged, right? Because here's an opinion for you. You can't fix stupid, right? And people do stupid stuff. They just do. Doesn't matter how much training you give them, doesn't matter whatever. So we pay these consultants, these company men, lots of money. And the deal is, you got to be out there and be watching out for stupid. You got to be out there reminding them of their training, reminding them of line of fire and these kind of things, along with telling them, what mud weight we need on that drilling rig or whatever. And so that's the best way we know to plan for it, is make sure that our contractors are sending out guys that have had the right training and the right experience. And on top of that, we're going to try and make sure that we're there to be the last line of defense, so to speak. We don't want to depend on PPE, right? we need our company man to be the last line of defense.
Well, I mean, you had a great answer to that, right? Because that's where I was leading you, was like the ownership of yes, you don't want to direct the work. You're paying the bills, and they should assume the risk. But here's the thing: everybody assumes the risk equally when somebody gets hurt. So, or the consequences. Let's say they assume the consequences of that. And so, shared ownership. That's what I'm hearing from you. And I forgot my next question. I think James has one.
Let me just expand on what you're saying about shared ownership. You're exactly right. When it comes to our contractors, they are the subject matter expert, right? We don't want to tell them how to do the job. We're not going to direct their work, right? We may tell them, hey, this is the mud weight we want to use. These are the downhole tools we want to use, whatever it is.
We're not comfortable with that.
Right.
Try
But
something else.
that's the main deal, is that we're not going to tell you how to do it, but if we see you doing it in an unsafe manner, we're certainly going to tell you how not to do it. You know,
Right.
and if your answer is, well, that's just the way we do it,
Well,
that's not
Not
a
with
good answer.
us.
This
Not
is
with
a
us.
continuation of what Dr. Simon was saying. He's a great dude, Chris. If you ever get a chance to meet him, he was a Ukrainian and lived in Kiev as a teenager and was there when Chernobyl went up. And had it not been for the wind direction, Dr. Simon might not be here today, but he's a great human factors expert and a member of our Veriforce Strategic Advisory Board. We had him on in a previous session, but he'd like to call it this: rumble strips. You know, on the highway, we have rumble strips. Your company men are the rumble strips for the safety on that particular operation. They're there.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You're starting to drift out of your lane here. You know, let's get you back centered. And when those rumble strips don't work, you know, is again when we find several failures. Just to keep going with the analogy, you know, you got a driver and they're falling asleep and they start to drift and they hit the rumble strips and that doesn't wake them up, or they overcorrect. You got so many things going wrong at one time. And that is what causes those big major accidents.
Yeah, absolutely. And every major incident I've been involved in, the sun, the moon, and the stars all had to line up.
Yep.
All had to
Same.
line up. And it's the reason Swiss cheese model is what it is. He went out there in 90 and said, you know, you got to line up all the holes. But and a lot of people may disagree with that. But in every serious incident, you know, to me, that's what happened. So that also, I think, stresses the importance that if we're going to worry about SIFs and we're going to worry about bringing workers home safe, let's take some actions to do so. And only way to prevent all of those little things from lining up is a very, very aggressive hazard identification process safety program, because it's usually process safety that kills a bunch of people. Process safety is what causes fires and explosions and big chemical spills and things of that nature. So we can't wait till we get to the job to start worrying about process safety. We got to worry about process safety in the planning of the work. I'm going to tell you, I say it every time. People are going to get tired of me saying this. Hazards are best controlled in the design and planning stage. If the hands could identify all the hazards, they wouldn't need any of us.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you, James, but then I'm going to follow right on the back end of that and saying, if you're going to design and you're going to plan for it, you better darn well communicate well with everybody that needs to know that information and to put it in place in order to set yourself up for success. And then that was my next question that I forgot was, you know, what is the communication system here for lessons learned for Callan? Right. Because
before we go to lessons learned, let's talk about the planning the job, right? So switching gears to construction. When we're building a new facility, a new battery, whatever it is, recycle facility, whatever, you know, the engineers will draw all this stuff up, right? Here's your plan. Here's how you need to go do it. When that gets in the hand of our construction superintendent and his guys, they usually quickly see this is not going to work because of this or that or whatever. You know, it's that miscommunication between the office and the field, right? Mm-hmm. So what we do is before we ever get started on a new project, we'll get the engineer that designed it. We get the our construction PICs, consultants, whatever, superintendent out there, and then we'll get the contractors. We'll get the safety department. All these different people gather up for an execution meeting, and we go through it. This tabletop exercise. How are we going to build this battery step by step by step? And if it's a big build, you know, that's going to take a while, we might cut it into sections. All right, let's have an execution meeting for, you know, phase 1 and then phase 2. So that's one of the ways we're communicating in front of it, like to James's point, you know, planning this work, trying to figure out where the hazards are, You know, we don't want to find out on location. We want to find out ahead of time. But then back to communicating lessons learned. One thing that we are really, really big on is I don't want to have an accident on say a workover rig and drilling never hears about it, right? That happens a lot in our business, these different silos. Completions are on their own, and they're not going to get along with those jerks over there in production, you know, and we better not have construction and drilling in the same room because we don't play that game here at Callan. You know, everybody needs to know. So once a month, we have what we call a high potential incident review. And we gather up all of our operational leaders from assistant foreman up, all the way up to the COO, on a Teams call. And we go over every incident that happened, you know, that month. You know, some companies have what they call a safety committee, which may be a smaller group of people, but this is everybody. And we tell them, here's all the incidents, painstakingly put them in a PowerPoint presentation and so on. And then, you know, we go over it with them, and then we send that presentation to them, the expectation being that they go over it not only with their direct reports, but also with their contractors. This message has to get out. You know, we had a line strike over here on construction. You know, there's no reason that we shouldn't share that message with the guys on drilling, you know, because they're going to be doing a little bit of digging and trenching and stuff like that, setting up this drilling rig. They need to know about that stuff too. So that's one important piece of it, is that monthly meeting. But then also to follow that up, each one of our operations, the drilling rigs, the workover rigs, frac, all these different operations have a book, a safety alert book there in, you know, at their operation, where we'll put out a safety alert for any of these incidents that are serious and need to be shared, laminate it, we'll put it in there. So, you know, the deal is on a completion job, for example, every day at 5:45 in the morning and 5:45 at night, we got 30, 40 guys gathered up to have this safety meeting. And what are they doing? They're just passing around a handful of JSAs they're signing, right? And it gets very, very repetitive. But what we found out is if we'll give them something to talk about, they will talk about it. And so we give them this book of all these safety alerts. And then when the day comes where they don't have a whole lot to discuss, you know, that company man will, hey, look, here's one that we haven't talked about, you know, and he'll talk, and it may have happened a year and a half ago, but he's pulling up this accident, reminding them, hey, don't forget this happened.
And everybody's got an opinion, right? And honestly, I know we're back to the opinions thing, but when you get a bunch of opinions in the room, sometimes things get solved or things come to light that you never even thought about before, right? Sometimes there's a lot of stuff that floats to the top too that you don't want to deal with, but sometimes really good ideas come from those conversations. And I personally, as a safety director and in other roles, the best conversations are when everybody's given an opinion and they're looking at things with different set of eyes than you would, or the safety manager would, or the company man would, right? So I love the conversations thing. And
it can be a little bit scary because I've sat in some before where they go back to an accident, you know, happened a year ago,
yours.
and they're talking about it, and then I'm saying like, crap,
wait, that was
you know,
me.
I'm the one that did the root cause analysis on that, and I didn't ask that question. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but you know what? Humility,
Yeah.
right?
and it helps me learn. I mean,
Right.
look, you know, I never stop learning. I want to learn something every day I'm out here, you know. And so whenever they bring up something that I missed, boom, there's a mental note. Next time, be sure and ask that question. You know.
So when am I coming to work at Callan?
Hey,
Just kidding. You know what? Up
I
here in
can't let
Maine,
you do that because then I'll be out of a job, I think.
Oh,
So,
no. Up here in Maine, you're warming my heart though with all this talk of communication and sharing lessons learned and stuff. So
it's
Go ahead,
got to be
James.
part of it when we don't have that army of safety guys like I mentioned. You know, now,
yeah,
and that's one of the traps of having, you know, a safety consultant on every location and so on, is what you end up with sometimes is a bunch of scapegoats, right? Oh, well, this accident happened on rig 7, you know, don't know why that safety guy didn't catch it, let's replace it. But when we don't have that, you don't have any choice but to communicate this stuff all around. And so that model is working well for us so far.
Well, let me ask you this as we kind of wind this down. If you had your magic wand, your magic safety wand, right?
I sell those, by the way.
There you
See
go.
me for pricing.
Got one right here.
Yeah, that's our progressive disciplinary program. Hey, can't get along, let's get it on. But if you can change anything to improve safety, particularly at the worker level, the contractor level, what would you change in safety right now to help bring workers home safe?
I tell you what I would do is I would make if I could snap my fingers, I would make sure that every contractor truly believed in stop work authority. And I'll explain that there's this thing, especially in the area I'm in West Texas, there's a lot of language barriers, Spanish and English, right? And some cultural differences too. And a lot of them do not believe they can stop the job without getting in trouble. No matter how many times I'm out there preaching it. I hand out my personal cell phone number and say, if you got a problem, you call me. I will back you up. No matter what, even if you're wrong, even if there was no reason to stop this job, I will still absolutely support your right to stop it and ask questions, but you can't get them to understand that. And a lot of these guys out in the field, they will apply that stop work authority to themselves, but nobody else. So for example, they look across the location and, hey, man, that guy over there's really going to hold that hammer in while the other guy swings the hammer. That doesn't look very safe. But they won't go say anything. What they say is to themselves, they better not ask me to do that because I'm going to tell them no. Well, okay, that's good. Protect yourself. But what about those guys over there? Go say something. So if I could change anything, I would make it where guys believe in that stop work authority and have all the knowledge that we as safety professionals do. We understand that use the stop work authority does not mean we're going to hit a big red buzzer and lights and sirens are going to go off. People are going to fly in from Houston and paperwork or meetings. That's not what it means. It's as simple as saying, hey, man, watch out. Don't step over that line. It's got pressure on it. Let's step back a little bit.
Or,
hey, man,
just hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second there. Let's just think about this. There are so many times that I've come on site as a safety professional, and they're like, "Oh, the safety person is here, right? Don't do anything." No. I want you to tell me things. I'm not here to, I'm going to ask questions. I might stop you for a second, but it doesn't mean I'm punishing you. It doesn't mean I'm judging you. I just want to know, why is that thing doing what it is? Or what? I mean, and it might be a second, or it might be something that saves somebody's lives. So, and you hit on something that James and I have been preaching lately is organizational culture, right? Because that's organizational culture, but it's also making sure that you are accounting for everybody in your workforce when you give that authority, right? And to know that you mean it, right? That's psychological safety, that they know that they can call your cell phone number, and you might not come bells and whistles and screaming sirens, but you're going to take note. You're gonna, and that's fantastic.
And that's another one of those major deals with the company, man. Is they better be supportive of that software authority. And so you got to go say, you got a Derek man up in a Derek and the wind's blowing 10 miles an hour. He says, oh, you know what? That wind's blowing hard. I don't feel safe. I'm going down. Right. Okay. Well, it probably is perfectly safe. But here's the deal: is that he said he does feel safe. Even if he tells you, no, it's fine, get back to work, his mind's only on one thing. And these jerks, they won't listen to me, they don't believe stop work authority. He's distracted, he's done.
He's done.
Yeah. And so, people can take advantage of it sometimes, but it's so important to prove to everybody that you do take it serious. And a lot of times it's, let me start and ask a question, and then, okay, that makes sense, let's go back to work.
I would say this to echo what you're saying as we kind of close this down. CEOs, they get stop authority because they understand the ramifications. There's not. We're headed to a courtroom someplace later. We're getting no citations. Even at the contractor level, I don't think the leaders of contract companies intentionally want people to get hurt. They may not be as clear on all the things they should do from a regulatory standpoint or whatever, but they want people to come on and they understand what Dr. Authority is. It's when we get to the field, and we got a front about in your illustration you just gave of foreman. Peer pressure on myself. Where it's not just I have a right stop job, I have all the right. When we tell them you have a right stop job, it's like telling them you have a right clothes, I got right stay home. You got right to keep bear arm, you got right not to. You know, right give me options. And when we're talking about responsibilities for other people, is when it becomes an obligation. And break down this mentality through really understanding what the psychological organizational culture of your company is very important if we're going to get to the point where people not only feel free to exercise it, they do exercise. And I can tell you, as we wrap this up, I've got a couple of different events I'm working on right now. And the question asked every time is why did anybody stop a job? Why did anybody stop a job? Well, let's give you an answer to that question. Let's find out why did people stop work? And not just give the old, well, man doesn't support it. Man out there, I don't know. I doesn't support stopping at least for a minute to step back. We all say it. We all have policies and all of our training. But it's not our practice in my mind. What's our behavior that we're doing? You know, if people are not exercising it, there's something wrong with the system. Behavior is a symptom of bigger problems, right? So let's work together to figure out why workers are exercising their stop work authority and don't just put it back on the age-old thing. Management. You know, get us fired. I don't know anybody's going to fire you to stop the job, man.
So here's an idea. I know you said wrap this up, but it's not an idea. Talk about SIF. Now, when you come up with a definition of that, and that people are going towards that, or as an indicator, you know, of how things are going. Maybe stop work authority shouldn't be called stop work authority, right? Maybe it should be called stop work obligation. Maybe it should be called stop work duty. Maybe we should change the terminology. That's one of the things that, we have these fancy piece of paper that the CEO signs saying, yeah, I give you, authority. But during our orientation for all of our contractors, we preach about, no. You don't just have the right, you have the obligation. You have the duty. Now, you have the right to stop the job, but that's not given to you by the safety guy or by your company or by the CEO. That right to stop the job and go home safe is given to you by God up above, right? You don't have to do anything to stay safe. But also part of your job is to stop unsafe acts. That's part of it. And we lean heavily on the PICs, the contract, or the consultancy, whatever you want to call them, people in charge there to support that and to drive that message. Because it is absolutely part of their job. It's an obligation, like you said, James. They've got to stop the job if you see something going wrong.
Man, thank you so much. That's great. I think that's where we got
I was going to say that's a wrap. That's a wrap
right there.
Y'all want any more controversial opinions?
Well, we do, but we have a limited amount of time to say it, so we'll have to have you back.
I have a controversial quota per episode.
Right. Thanks again for coming on the show. Again, this has been the Risk Matrix with James Junkin.
Roll Tide, go baby, and keep
Roll Tide. And I'm Dr. Martin and Chris Gafford from Callan. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.